Part 7. Global Copy, My Talent is Called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 61. Wait a mini-nude. Xiao Yan was a little worried about Lu Zioqi, so she pulled him aside and asked him in a low voice. Zioqi, what happened to you that the police came to your door? I don't know either, Lu Zioqi looked innocent. Teacher, you know, I am honest. You are an honester. Xiao Yan's face darkened, but she still said, do you need the teacher's help? He was interrupted by Lu Zioqi with a wave of his hand. It's okay. If you don't do anything wrong, don't be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. Lu Zioqi didn't care. Several people from relevant departments all had dark faces. What does it mean? Are we ghosts? Classmate Lu, can you come with us? Lu Zioqi's heart was pounding. With a harmless smile on his face, Uncle Policeman, can I make a call? Don't worry, I'll beat him in front of you, it will only take a while, very quickly. Of course, that's your right. Lu Zioqi took out her mobile phone and entered the mysterious code. As soon as the call was dialed, it was connected within seconds. Wait. Well, it's me. Yeah, okay, no problem. Goodbye. After hanging up the phone, Lu Zioqi said to the police uncles who were listening attentively, I'm fine now, let's go. Several policemen looked at each other disappointedly. Let's go. If they move forward, the classroom will explode. Lu Zioqi was taken away by the police. What? Lu Zioqi was arrested? Ah. What did Lu Zioqi do? He was actually arrested. Zhao Xueqing, who had seen all this, was thoughtful and frowned slightly. The discussion was in full swing, and everyone wanted to know what Lu Zioqi had committed. In the end, it became more and more outrageous, and several versions developed. Lu Zioqi cheated and was caught by the police. Lu Zioqi was caught taking drugs. Lu Zioqi was caught engaging in pornography. Lu Zioqi was actually a hidden gang boss and was discovered and arrested by the police. Everyone's imagination is soaring, and you can write several novels on top of tomatoes. In the end, Xiao Yan, the head teacher, was alarmed and scolded her a few times before she calmed down a bit. However, this incident soon spread to the point where the whole school knew about it. After all, such a big thing cannot be hidden. Many people witnessed Lu Zioqi being taken away by the police uncle. At this time, sitting in the police car, Lu Zioqi looked very calm. Well behaved. JPG. The atmosphere in the car was a bit awkward. Or rather solemn. The two young police officers glanced at Lu Zioqi from time to time. I muttered in my mind, is this guy a suspect? It doesn't look like it. You can't catch the wrong one, right? Of course, Lu Zioqi couldn't guess their mental activities, but seeing that the atmosphere was a bit dull, she couldn't help but decide to calm down. After thinking for a moment, Lu Zioqi said to the middle-aged uncle who seemed to be kinder. Uncle Policeman, what do you do? The expression on the uncle's face froze, and he couldn't help but glance at Lu Zioqi several times. There is something wrong with this person. Even if there is nothing wrong with you mentally, there must be something wrong mentally. What do you think I do for a living? I am a KB member and I am here to take a shit. Can you look at the police badge I'm wearing and say what you just said again? I mean. Perhaps realizing the contradiction in his words, Lu Zioqi quickly explained. Where are you taking me? Which department are you in? Have you come to school to go through the procedures? The first three questions were still on point. The middle-aged man smoothed his thinning hair and was about to answer. I heard Lu Zioqi's little mouth was like a machine gun, talking a lot. How old are you? Where are you from? Have you bought a car? Have you bought a house? Do you have a loan? How many people are there in the family? How many acres of land does each person have, and how many cows are there? Do you have a girlfriend? Are you married? Do you pay your monthly salary? How much is your pocket money? Shut up, one of the policemen couldn't bear the humiliation and shouted, glaring at Luzioki fiercely. I'm checking my household registration from here. You don't care if I have a girlfriend. What, why don't you send me one without you? Are you the police or am I the police? Luzioki muttered angrily, isn't it because he doesn't have a girlfriend yet? Is there such a big reaction? Uncle policeman, you are so old and don't have a girlfriend. You must have a lot of savings, right? Personnel from relevant departments. 3 critical hits in one sentence. The knife struck at the vital point. The policeman suddenly became unable to sit still. He became angry and started to roll up his sleeves. Hey! You bastard, believe it or not, I will fix you. Lao Hu, calm down. Hold on. Old Hu. Calm down. Several people nearby quickly grabbed him. There is no law enforcement recorder on this. If someone is injured and trouble occurs, everyone will be left with nothing to lose. Luzioki covered her mouth and shrank her neck, not daring to make any more provocations. Seeing that the situation was not going well, the police officer who was driving quickly stepped on the accelerator and accelerated, pulling the scourge into the police station several times to avoid hearing any more shocking remarks from his mouth. When they arrived at the police station, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Luzioki was taken to the interrogation room and sat on a chair, with a huge incandescent lamp shining on his face, which was very dazzling. A row of yellow characters on a red background stood out on the wall. Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. If you confess, you will be lenient, and you will go to jail. If you resist, you will be punished strictly, and you will go home for the new year. Luzioki whispered softly. Policewoman who just came in. You think I don't exist? She coughed and sat down with a straight face. Name. Luzioki. Age. 18 years old. Gender. You guess. Luzioki was speechless. Can't you tell that my brother is a man? The policewoman slammed the pen onto the record book and made a pop sound. Be honest. At this time, another male policeman also walked in and sat down on the chair. Explain what? Luzioki was confused. Tell the truth. Don't act stupid, the policewoman glared at Luzioki with a straight face and tapped her fingers on the table. Well, she is a bit good-looking, but her personality is a bit fierce. Luzioki looked at the policewoman, nodded and said, the most important thing is this figure, which is quite amazing. 2 policemen. The policewoman jumped up at the crime. How dare you tease the police? Luzioki looked innocent. You asked me to tell the truth. Okay, don't make trouble. The male policeman had a headache and quickly smoothed things over. The 2 of them were originally a good person and a bad person. After working together for so long, they had a tacit understanding of each other. Before, he planned to let the policewoman give him a blow, so that in this majestic and tense environment, he would subconsciously think of some guilty conscience, mess up his position, and expose his flaws. But he didn't want to meet this Luzioki who was completely unconventional. It's like this, classmate Luzioki, we have a case here that is related to you, and we may need your cooperation in some investigations. The male police officer explained. I understand. Luzioki suddenly realized it and said seriously. I'm under arrest. I have the right to remain silent, but what I say will become evidence in court. So, I won't say anything until the lawyer I hired comes. 2 policemen. The male policeman also had a twitching eye. The policewoman's fists were clenched, and she gritted her teeth and said, Stop making fun of me here, with a playful smile. You hired a shitty lawyer. If you keep talking nonsense, I will sue you for obstructing official business. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying boy has bad luck. Chapter 62. Okay, okay. Luzioki spread his hands, sighed, and leaned back on the chair. You just brought me here without saying anything to me. What do you want me to explain? How do I know? Male policeman, didn't we tell you? Didn't you interrupt me? Although it was annoying, there was nothing they could do about it. They currently lack clear evidence to prove that this matter is related to Luzioki. Just through some inferences, Luzioki was temporarily listed as a suspect. Originally, in this situation, we could only go to the door and do some investigations, but we could not make arrests. It's just that someone behind the scenes said something, so that he could make an exception and bring the person back. If Luzioki refused to explain, they would have nothing to do. He could only be released after being detained for 72 hours. If someone releases bail, Luzioki can even leave immediately. Of course, no one realized the seriousness of the matter at first. I thought that if this matter was really related to this high school student, then they wouldn't be able to handle it safely. Can Cricket, a student who has just turned 18 and has not yet entered society, be able to fight against these cunning policemen? All he needs to do is resort to some random tricks, but why don't he have to explain everything about how old he was when he still wet the bed? Taking a step back, even if the matter had nothing to do with him, it would only be enough to apologize to him afterwards. Is it possible that he could still make a difference? So no one took Luzioki too seriously. As a result, Luzioki's first attack was a combination of punches, which made everyone's heads buzz. Instead, he lost his sense of proportion. The two policemen looked at each other, and their attitudes softened again. The male policeman picked up the thermos cup, blew on the tea leaves, and slowly took a sip of tea. Here's what happened. 3 days ago, we received a call from the police. A missing person incident occurred in the area we are responsible for. A woman reported the case. Tell me the important point. Luzioki looked serious and knocked on the table to interrupt the male police officer. The male policeman almost couldn't lift it up because he was choked. The policewoman's fist became hard again. My right hand, which was going to write down notes in the notebook, almost broke the pen. The two of them stared at Luzioki for a long time. Luzioki held her head high, like a martyr who was about to be executed. Both heroic and heroic, as if he was about to be persecuted by a traitor at the next moment. After a long time, the male policeman slowly exhaled. Sujia is missing. Now we suspect you did it? Is there anything you want to say? The male police officer rubbed his temples and had given up on his usual routine, speaking concisely and to the point. Isn't this right? Luzioki clapped her hands. Although he looked unconcerned, he was still quite surprised. Because he hasn't heard the name Sujia for a long time. In Luzioki's memory, the last impression she had on him was the fall of the Su family. Later, I learned from others that Sujia had dropped out of school. After all, it would be rude not to drop out. With his previous urinary behavior, which offended so many people, it is estimated that it would be 100 million difficult to get through in Chengdu Middle School until graduation. It was only now that Luzioki learned about his disappearance from the police. Sujia is missing. Then you go find it? Why are you arresting me? I don't know where he is. Luzioki spread his hands and said that he couldn't stand Sister Li. Are you really completely ignorant? The policewoman's eyes were glaring, and she emphasized the word completely. According to our investigation, before Sujia disappeared, he had a conflict with you just now. In addition, the Su family has experienced changes and has lost its former glory. We have reason to believe that you do have a motive to take action. Luzioki's eyes widened and she was speechless. Sister police officer, please open your big Kazilan eyes and see clearly. The man sitting in front of you is named Luzioki. He is an ordinary civilian. His family has neither money nor power, and he knows only a handful of people. What should I do to kidnap Sujia Hao? I haven't said you kidnapped Sujia Hao, the policewoman shouted and sneered. Do you think you're just asking for it? Aren't you saying that I kidnapped Sujia Hao? Are you saying that I killed Sujia Hao and hid his body in the wilderness? What? You actually killed Sujia Hao and hid the body? The policewoman's eyes widened. Quickly tell me. Where is the hiding place of the body? Luzioki. Sure enough, women have a natural advantage when it comes to messing around, and even Luzioki has no choice but to be at a disadvantage. Seeing Luzioki's speechless face, the policewoman who had the upper hand looked even more pleased. She put her hands on the table and leaned forward, trying to give Luzioki a stronger sense of oppression. Tell me, what kind of secrets are you hiding behind your back? Luzioki kept her mouth shut, not daring to say a word more. The more she said, the more wrong she said, so it was better not to say anything. Seeing that Luzioki was stubborn and refused to listen, the policewoman was obviously even more excited. She stretched out her hands and was about to say something more. But when she heard two sounds of pa, pa, the policewoman felt her chest relax. She no longer felt suffocated and felt relaxed and relaxed. A button clattered down and made a circle on the table. Another button flew directly into Luzioki's face, giving him a headshot. Male policeman. Policewoman. Luzioki. Under Luzioki's dull gaze, the policewoman finally seemed to come back to her senses, screamed ah, covered her slightly exaggerated chest muscles with her hands, turned around and rushed out. Luzioki looked at the invisible figure and sighed a little. This sudden benefit caught him off guard and he didn't react at all. At that time, I only heard two pop sounds, and a sneak attack came straight to the door. Then Luzioki's eyes were immersed in the turbulent waves. But when I think about it carefully at this time, I have no impression at all. Luzioki clicked her tongue, turned to the male policeman and said, I believe you have also seen it. She did it on her own, and it has nothing to do with me. I haven't sued her for deliberately injuring my forehead with a concealed weapon. Hey! All the hidden weapons are still here. Luzioki spread out his hand, and a metal button on it sparkled under the light. Male policeman. What the hell? He still behaves well after getting a bargain. This person really owes it. I didn't even have a chance to see it clearly. I really want to hit someone. But the next moment, the door to the interrogation room was opened again. A fat man pushed open the door and walked in with a smile on his face. Classmate Lu. You are? Luzioki was a little surprised. My surname is Zhang, and I am currently the chief of this police station. The fat man stretched out his hands and shook Luzioki's hand. We have investigated clearly what happened, and it has nothing to do with you at all. It's all a misunderstanding. Your Majesty has a lot, please don't mind. Male policeman. He widened his eyes and looked at his director, bowing his head in front of this high school student with an apologetic smile, and he was completely stunned. Aren't they the ordinary high school students we promised? Is this normal enough for the director to come forward and apologize? Besides, this case has just begun, how can it be fully investigated? Since it was a misunderstanding, can I leave? Of course. Please come this way. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 63. Different from when he came, Luzioki came out of the interrogation room relaxed. There were no more police officers dedicated to guarding him on either side. When he came out, he curiously looked around and looked at his surroundings. Director Zhang saw this and said with a smile, it seems that Mr. Lu is quite curious about our police station. If you have time, why not come with me for a walk? Isn't this, not good? Luzioki hesitated. I've heard of going to supermarkets, markets, and shopping malls. Visiting the police station is really unheard of. Luzioki's first experience. The eldest girl got on the sedan chair. It was the first time. Hey, what's wrong with this? Director Zhang was quite enthusiastic and pulled Luzioki forward. Rongcheng Police Station is much larger than Luzioki imagined. Except for the office hall, various departments are crisscrossed and very complicated. This is the publicity team, which is usually responsible for our publicity work on public security management, including publicity and management of anti-drugs, anti-pornography, anti-gambling, and anti-criminal activities on several popular online platforms, such as Weibo, Douyin, and Shark. Waiting for work. Bureau Zhang led Luzioki past the office on one side, and Luzioki looked up. It was full of young ladies in uniform, and there were only a handful of boys. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He thought the police station should be an Arhat unit. Even if there are girls participating, they should be in the minority, but I didn't expect so many. Luzioki took a quick look and found that although there were a lot of them, the quality could only be considered average. It was still not as eye-catching as the heroic policewomen with big breasts before. Seeing Luzioki's lack of interest, Director Zhang, who had extraordinary eyesight, said nothing more and led Luzioki to continue walking forward. This is our equipment group, which mainly manages and maintains the equipment of our police station. There were only 3 or 2 kittens inside. Seeing Director Zhang suddenly checking the post, several people who were fishing stood up and greeted the director. Director Zhang waved his hand for them to continue working, but Luzioki clearly saw Douying's interface on the display screen of a certain fishing boss. This is the security team. This is the drug arrest team. This is the communications group. Luzioki didn't react at all to the next few departments. He mainly knew what their responsibilities were by hearing their names, and since there was nothing that stood out to him, he was naturally not very interested. This is the criminal division, which is full of key members of our police station. The interrogation room we just stayed in is under the jurisdiction of the criminal division. Director Zhang was making introductions when he happened to see a female police officer walking out. Coincidentally, it happened to be the broad-minded female police officer in the interrogation room just now. At this moment, she had changed into another piece of clothing, but Luzioki, who had already experienced the magnificent scene from her, still grasped the essential elements at a glance. Well, it's a bit tight. When the policewoman saw Luzioki, her reaction was a little violent. She pointed at him and shouted, "Why are you, a stinky gangster, here? Slander. This is slander. Director Zhang, he slandered me," as if she had been insulted. Luzioki jumped behind Director Zhang and pointed at the policewoman. "Not only did she openly attack me, she also slandered me. Director Zhang, you have to make the decision for me." When the policewoman heard this, what would she do? Her eyes widened, she gritted her teeth and clenched her fists, ready to rush up and beat Luzioki. At this time, he was stopped by the person next to him. "Sister Lee, calm down. Would that still allow her to act wild in front of the director? Nonsense." Although Director Zhang didn't know what happened between them, it didn't matter. He frowned. "Xiaoqian. How can you talk nonsense? Mr. Lu is a distinguished guest of our bureau." This was said quite skillfully and seemed to be protecting Luzioki's face. He even referred to his former classmate as Sir, which greatly satisfied Luzioki's vanity. But in fact, he protected the policewoman named Li Xiaoqian and brushed aside the previous incident without ever mentioning it. Others don't know Luzioki's background and strength. How can Director Zhang, who had just been scolded, still not know? This man, the police department cannot afford to offend him. Just him. Still a distinguished guest, the policewoman named Li Xiaoqian couldn't believe it. That's right, Luzioki put her hands on her hips, feeling proud. Just now, you ignored me, but now you can't reach me. Do you understand what is meant by 30 years in the east of the river and 30 years in the west of the river? Don't bully young people into poverty. Seeing Lu Xiaoqi's face, not to mention Li Xiaoqian who was gritting her teeth in hatred, even Director Zhang, who had always been very kind, was a little speechless. He coughed and was about to change the topic and lead Lu Xiaoqi forward. A burst of hysterical pleas suddenly broke out from the criminal team. Please save my son. He is only 18 years old. He is only 18 years old. He doesn't understand anything. Please save him. This naturally attracted everyone's attention, especially Lu Xiaoqi, whose ears almost stood up. Director Zhang was a little embarrassed when he encountered such an incident. He asked with a straight face. What's going on? Everyone was silent, and in the calm scene one could still hear the cry of a woman and the consolation and persuasion of the police on the side. On the contrary, the male police officer who had been following behind glanced at Lu Xiaoqi and suddenly said, "This is Su Jiahao's mother." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere became even more awkward. Director Zhang's expression changed slightly and he said to Lu Xiaoqi, "There's nothing interesting about this criminal department. Why don't we change places?" Lu Xiaoqi vaguely saw a woman breaking down and crying through the blinds, and he also fell silent. No matter what this woman was before, now she is just an ordinary mother who has lost her child. This reminded him of the scene when he and his sister held each other's arms and cried when their adoptive parents suddenly disappeared. Director Zhang. Mr. Lu, tell me, Director Zhang lowered his head, looking like he was following orders. I hope you can do your best to investigate this disappearance case, Lu Xiaoqi said cautiously. His original carefree appearance completely disappeared, and he looked particularly solemn in his seriousness. Of course there is no problem with this, it's your responsibility. Director Zhang nodded quickly, turned to his subordinates and said. Did you hear that? We must go all out. Yes, everyone responded. Li Xiaoqian was also among them. She took the opportunity to secretly glance at Lu Xiaoqi. Her expression was a little surprised, and she seemed to have a slightly changed opinion of this guy. After this incident, Lu Xiaoqi had no intention of visiting the police station, and it was getting late, so she turned around and divorced Director Zhang. Several people sent Lu Xiaoqi to the door of the police station. They originally wanted to send him home, but Lu Xiaoqi was so frightened that he refused repeatedly. This is not a good gift. If my sister saw him getting out of the police car, she would be so frightened that she would faint. This incident was the fault of our police station. Please excuse me, Mr. Lu, for making this trip. Standing at the door of the police station, Director Zhang was still waiting to say a few polite words. Director Zhang is very hospitable and makes me feel at home. I am very satisfied. If I have a chance, I'll come and play again next time. Lu Xiaoqi also nodded with a smile. Director. Several police officers. This time, everyone is in trouble. Is this guy serious? Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 64. Seeing Lu Xiaoqi's figure fading away, Director Zhang breathed a sigh of relief. The male police officer who came out of the interrogation room behind the director could no longer restrain his curiosity. At this moment, he couldn't help but ask, Director, what is the background of this Lu Xiaoqi? I actually alerted you to come here in person. Look at the good things you have done. Director Zhang glared at the male police officer. Just ask questions. Why did you bring this little ancestor to the police station? Do you think I've been sitting in the position of director for too long? The male policeman grimaced. Isn't this what Lao Chen meant? Besides, you agreed at the time. The male policeman realized something was wrong as soon as he spoke. He was afraid that he would lose the leader's face, so he couldn't help but speak softer and softer, and finally he couldn't even hear it. If I had known he was such a little ancestor, I wouldn't have agreed to kill him. Director Zhang didn't mind this, but he also sighed. When this matter was mentioned at that time, in order to sell face to others, he naturally agreed wholeheartedly, but he did not want to cause trouble. Just now, he was sitting in the bureau with his legs crossed, listening to music and drinking tea, enjoying his life endlessly. He turned around and received a call from the province, scolding him in the face. He was confused at the time and didn't even know why he was being scolded. It took me a long time to figure out that it was related to Lu Xiaoqi. After asking a few roundabout questions, I heard someone coldly drop a warning. Don't ask about military matters. Director Zhang's face turned green at that time. He was just the police chief, in charge of public security and public safety. What is the concept of the military? That is a symbol of the value of force in the competition between countries. The leader in managing national security. How could he afford to offend this? Besides, he and Lu Xiaoqi had only met each other, and he immediately understood one thing at just one glance. This person didn't even notice them. Even though Lu Xiaoqi was smiling and showing no expression at all, the more she looked like this, the more respectful Director Zhang became. How many people in relevant departments who can still maintain this attitude are simple people? After checking his eyes, he is someone who cannot be trifled with. No more, the higher-ups are still waiting for me to explain, Director Zhang said, staring at the male police officer again. Xiao Wang, go back and tell them clearly. This matter is in my belly and no one is allowed to make it public. As he spoke, he glanced at everyone present, and the warning was self-evident. Hey. Okay, the male policeman nodded repeatedly. Director Zhang walked into the police station with his hands behind his back. The male policeman turned back and glanced at Lu Xiaoqi's barely visible back, a little confused. Who is this guy? Lu Xiaoqi here is about to go to the bus station to catch the bus. As a result, a vehicle horn was heard from behind. Beep. Lu Xiaoqi turned around and saw a familiar luxury car slowly approaching and stopping in front of him. The car window rolled down, revealing a pretty face. Boarding. It's Zhao Xueqing. Lu Xiaoqi looked at the back seat and found an urban beauty sitting behind her. He had no choice but to pull open the passenger seat and get in. How did you come? Lu Xiaoqi asked. He was really surprised to meet Zhao Xueqing in this place. Zhao Xueqing looked him over and snorted. You actually lied to me. Does the Su family's matter really have nothing to do with you? How did you come out of the station safe and sound? When Zhao Xueqing was in class, she saw Lu Xiaoqi being taken away by the police, and knew that someone must be behind this. She had previously asked people to pay attention to the movements of the Tang family, and now she understood the whole story after checking it. As soon as school was over, she immediately brought people over, preparing to release Lu Xiaoqi on bail. As a result, as soon as he arrived, he saw Lu Xiaoqi strutting out of the station, and several policemen behind him nodded and bowed to see him off. The ice snow and smart Zhao Xueqing reacted immediately. I was actually fooled by this bastard. It's a shame that I was so busy working for him. This Lu Xiaoqi actually dared to deceive herself. Lu Xiaoqi looked at Zhao Xueqing glaring at him, and felt a little guilty for no reason. Is this Zhao Xueqing just here to find him? But he reacted immediately. He had done nothing wrong, so what was he afraid of? So Lu Xiaoqi coughed dryly and said sincerely, I really didn't lie to you. What happened to the Su family was really not my fault. As for how I got out. Hey. You saw it too and came out. Get out, Zhao Xueqing rolled her eyes at him, that stinky man didn't say a word of truth. Okay, Lu Xiaoqi pretended to open the car door and get out. Come back, Zhao Xueqing gritted her teeth and shouted to him quickly. She still had something to tell Lu Xiaoqi. Lu Xiaoqi sat down and looked at Zhao Xueqing with an innocent face, making her blush with anger. Suddenly Lu Xiaoqi's eyes were fixed on Zhao Xueqing's earlobe. There was a pair of crystal-clear earrings sparkling. His eyes lit up, and he blurted out words of praise. "Xueqing, these earrings really match you. It seems like it was the right gift for you. It's beautiful." Zhao Xueqing's face turned redder. This time she was not angry, but shy. Lu Xiaoqi's sudden compliment made her a little overwhelmed, and in the end she could only roll her eyes at him. Annoying. Full of girlish posture, full of charm. The charming look in that glance made Lu Xiaoqi dumbfounded. Is this Zhao Xueqing who is as cold and arrogant as an iceberg on weekdays, but can open her mouth at critical moments and compete with heroes from all over the world? The urban beauty in the back. She was a little restless. Miss Zhao was flirting with a strange man in front of her. She wouldn't be silenced, right? Did he? The loudspeaker at the back interrupted the slightly ambiguous atmosphere. It was obvious that Zhao Xueqing's car had been parked for a long time, blocking the way of the people behind, and the others were impatient to wait. Zhao Xueqing calmed down her emotions and started the car. The Tang family took action. Zhao Xueqing's words brought Lu Xiaoqi back to his senses instantly. She glanced at Lu Xiaoqi. "Although I don't know how you resolved this crisis, I'm afraid the Tang family will not give up easily." As a tsundere, of course the work she did behind the scenes would not be easily revealed in front of Lu Xiaoqi. Even if she was capable enough to ensure the safety of Lu Xiaoqi and the others, she still had to deliberately scare this guy. By the way, let's explore Lu Xiaoqi's background. After all, you ruined other people's good deeds and made their efforts of the past 6 months go to waste. Zhao Xueqing had a sneer on her lips, as if she was mocking someone. Lu Xiaoqi raised her eyebrows. "Oh? Do you mean they are responsible for Su Jiahao's disappearance?" "No, they just guided the unfavorable situation to you and pushed it along." Zhao Xueqing was a little disappointed not to see Lu Xiaoqi's frightened look. This guy seemed to really have a trump card. Good guy. Lu Xiaoqi has actually been on guard recently, ever since he completely offended Tang Yu. When the police just came to look for him, he thought it was Tang Yu and the others who had taken action. He didn't care about anything else and immediately called for help. After receiving a positive answer from the colonel, Lu Xiaoqi relaxed and handled the whole process with ease. But after arriving at the police station, he learned about Su Jiahao's disappearance, which dispelled his previous suspicion, thinking that he was being overly concerned. Unexpectedly, just after coming out, Lu Xiaoqi learned from Zhao Xueqing that the Tang family was really behind this. "After all, this weekend, we are going to the dungeon. If I can hold you back with this matter at this time, then my previous plan will naturally be completely ruined. Even if we can't hold you back, a slight impact on your status will greatly affect our next dungeon strategy. It seems that the Tang family already knows that you are number 1 in the adventurer assessment." Zhao Xueqing made her final guess. Although Lu Xiaoqi didn't understand how Zhao Xueqing deduced the final conclusion, he was shocked. If Zhao Xueqing hadn't been driving, he would have immediately hugged her beautiful legs and shouted, "Si. You don't need to worry about this matter. I've already found someone to handle it." Zhao Xueqing said lightly, "They won't have time to trouble you anymore." Now that he knew that Lu Xiaoqi was confident of handling the situation, Zhao Xueqing no longer hid it, and bluntly said that she would handle the matter well so that he did not have to worry. Lu Xiaoqi nodded without asking too much. In fact, even if Zhao Xueqing didn't intervene, after knowing about this matter, he could still trouble the colonel and handle the matter properly, but he might have to owe him another debt. It's a big favor. Then he glanced at the urban beauty sitting in the back seat. "Who is this? At first I thought you were being detained by the police station." "This is the lawyer I found for you," Zhao Xueqing said calmly. The urban beauty immediately answered, "Hello, my name is Li Shui," and stretched out her hand. "It turned out that I was invited to help." "Hello, hello. I've admired you for a long time. I'm so glad to meet you. Lu Zhaoqi held Li Shui's hand exaggeratedly and shook it hard twice. Li Shui. Has this person always been like this? I am really scared. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 65. Because she took Zhao Xueqing's ride, Lu Zhaoqi got home from school much earlier than before. Lu Wanyi was obviously a little surprised that he came back early, and asked strangely, Xiaoqi, why did you finish school so early today? Is it possible that you skipped class? Perhaps because of her understanding of her brother, Lu Wanyi thought that the most likely possibility was to skip class. Because Lu Zhaoqi asked Xiao Yan a long time ago not to tell Lu Wanyi that she was admitted as an adventurer, for fear that she would be irritated. After all, with her current physical condition, she really cannot withstand the blow. Xiao Yan also knew the situation of their family, so she always kept her promise. Even if Lu Zhaoqi was taken away by the police, she did not choose to notify Lu Wanyi as soon as possible. Instead, she suppressed the matter at school. The other side is trying to figure out the cause of this matter. It is estimated that if Lu Zhaoqi is not released, she will go to the police station herself. Of course, since Lu Zhaoqi came out of the police station, he had already taken out his mobile phone and sent a text message to Xiao Yan to report that she was safe, and briefly talked about the situation in the text message to reassure Xiao Yan. However, he only said that his arrest was related to Su Jiahao's disappearance, and did not tell Xiao Yan about the Tang family's mischief behind his back. The main reason is that it won't help if she knows about it, so it's better not to talk about it so as not to worry her. Lu Wanyi is obviously still in the dark and has no idea how many things have happened to her brother recently. Lu Zhaoqi would obviously not take the initiative to tell her these things before she cured her sister's illness. He smiled and said to Lu Wanyi, we did a simulation training this afternoon, so we let it go early. Simulation training is the so-called mock exam before the college entrance examination. But in addition to testing some theoretical knowledge, there is also an assessment of physical fitness. For example, ratings for sprinting, weightlifting, and long jump. Lu Zhaoqi has participated in many such assessments in the past, and she can go home early after the assessment is over. Lu Wanyi nodded. She still trusted her brother. She did not continue to ask any questions. Instead, she said happily, I just happened to buy some meat today and wanted to make dumplings. You came just in time. Come and help sister. Lu Wanyi's hands were covered with white noodles, holding a rolling pin, as if she was celebrating the new year. Eating a meal of dumplings is really like celebrating the new year for the Lu family's current family situation. Okay, Lu Zhaoqi responded with a smile, what good thing happened today? Sister is so happy. Let me tell you, don't take it out and talk nonsense, Lu Wanyi said happily. I passed by on the way to buy groceries today and saw a wallet on the ground. I picked it up and saw that there were 200 yuan in it. I asked around, and everyone around me said that I didn't lose it, so I took it back and bought dozens of dollars worth of meat, hee. Lu Zhaoqi looked at Lu Wanyi's slightly coquettish look, with a hint of pampering and tenderness on her face. Sister, you are so lucky. No wonder I was willing to make a meal of dumplings today. Yeah, I feel like I'm lucky lately, and I can still pick up some money from time to time. The corners of Lu Wanyi's eyes were crooked, and her face was filled with simple happiness. Lu Zhaoqi felt a little helpless. Of course she can pick up the money. This was clearly thrown by Lu Zhaoqi according to her usual route. Although there is a risk of being picked up by others, Lu Zhaoqi knows her sister's usual route and time when she goes out, so there is a high probability that it will fall into Lu Wanyi's pocket. He didn't dare to give too much. The original plan was to give away a few yuan to dozens of yuan. He would only give it away every now and then, but he didn't dare to give it too often, for fear of arousing his sister's suspicion and uneasiness. This time, it was because she saw her sister's face not looking good when she woke up in the morning that she lost a little more money. She hoped that Lu Wanyi could buy something to replenish her health. As a result, Lu Wanyi bought a few kilograms of meat and made Lu Zioki his favorite dumplings. Do you think Lu Zioki is helpless? Although Lu Zioki now has a lot of money, he must not tell his sister where the money came from, so he has no way to directly give it to her to improve her life. This is the only way to help my sister a little bit. But he didn't expect that his sister would benefit from it, completely ignoring herself and focusing on Lu Zioki. This made Lu Zioki helpless and even more moved. The next day Lu Zioki came to class, and everyone's eyes were locked on him, full of surprise and curiosity. Wasn't he taken away by the police? Why was he released so quickly? Many people think so in their hearts. The main reason is that various rumors are flying everywhere, and everyone is full of curiosity and speculation about this matter. With the appearance of Lu Zioki, those outrageous rumors were undoubtedly put to an end. Lu Zioki single-handedly broke everyone's imagination and illusions. Although Lu Zioki had previously been indifferent to Lu Zioki due to his talent, others in the class were not interested in him, and his only best friend was Chen Haoran. But after all, they are all classmates who get along day and night, and there will always be a few acquaintances. Seeing Lu Zioki and Shiran sitting in their seats, they couldn't help but come over and ask, "Student Lu, what happened yesterday? Why were you taken away by the police?" Yes, what happened? What happened? Lu Zioki looked at their curious faces and couldn't help but straighten her expression. Why were you taken away by the police? Because once I accept my weakness, then I unrivaled. As he spoke, he made a cobra gesture. Students gathered around. Many classmates who pricked up their ears to eavesdrop. Don't tell me if you don't want to. What are you doing? The classmate who asked the question looked like a subway old man's mobile phone.jpg and muttered in dissatisfaction. I'm doing this for your own good, Lu Zioki said righteously. Knowing too much is not good for anyone. Curiosity killed the cat. TCH, everyone booed him and dispersed. Zhao Xueqing didn't seem to care, but she was actually paying attention to what was going on here. When she saw Lu Zioki sending everyone away, she inadvertently had a smile on her lips. It was like having a little secret with Lu Zioki that only the two of them knew. This feeling is a brand new experience for Zhao Xueqing. But it doesn't feel bad. Wang Liang still looks like an old god. Ever since he recognized Lu Zioki's fighting ability, he has become increasingly Dai Hua. He was not surprised by what Lu Zioki did. Instead, when he saw the surprised and disbelieving expressions on the faces of his classmates, he felt filled with a sense of superiority. He raised his head arrogantly and snorted in his heart. Mortal wisdom, hum. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 66. In the Weiyuan training ground, Lu Zioki was sitting in one of the training rooms recovering her strength. This room is not big, only about 30 square meters. There is a large amount of exercise equipment piled in the corner of the training room. What treadmills, rowing machines, gantry racks, squat racks, Roman chairs, and all kinds of dumbbells. As mentioned before, in fact, when they reach the astral stage of extraordinary physical fitness, these ordinary exercise equipment can no longer have a very good exercise effect on them. What's more, Lu Zioki has already reached the evaluation standard of the middle stage of Starlight, so the effect of these equipment is almost negligible. But it's different in the training room. Because the gravity in this room is 1.5 times that outside. What does that mean? This means that something weighing 100 kilograms weighs 150 kilograms in this one. And please note that this exercise does not simply mean that you bear more weight on your body during exercise. Gravity is all around. The load on every inch of your skin, every organ, down to every cell is 1.5 times that of before. The consumption of physical energy has increased by an unknown number of times. This allows those previous exercise equipment to still have a training effect on adventurers in the astral realm. The other wall of the training room is made of strange crystal stones that look like obsidian. There are vague traces of artificial cutting on it. This crystal has a very domineering name: Forbidden Magic Stone. This means that all skill effects have no effect on it, and only pure physical attacks can have a damaging effect on it. But with its hardness comparable to diamond, without equipment, even the moonlight level would be difficult to leave deep marks on it. Many important strategic territories use it as building materials to build defenses. The main purpose of placing this in the training ground is to practice skills. Luzioki just fired a burst of output at it. The demon forbidden stone wall did not move at all, but made Luzioki very tired and exhausted all her physical strength. Of course, this is to be expected. After all, the forbidden demon stone is known as an immunity skill. If Luzioki could destroy it with one strike, it would be shocking. Compared to the exercise effect produced by rolling iron, Luzioki chose to practice physical fitness by repeatedly releasing skills. Unlike others, other adventurers have a limited number of skills and long skill CDs. Their practice method is to release a round of skills first, then roll the iron, wait for the skill cycle, and then release a round of skills. Improve your skill proficiency while exercising your physical fitness. Luzioki is different. His skills have no CD. As long as he has physical support, he can unleash his skills indefinitely. But unfortunately, his skills are all full stars, and there is no need to brush up on proficiency. He has only one purpose in releasing his skills, which is to quickly drain out his physical strength, recover, and enhance his physical fitness. This method has the most outstanding effect. Only Luzioki can do this. Starlight level adventurers have learned up to 5 skills. After a round of skills is finished, they have to wait for about 10 minutes. At this time, if there was no high-intensity physical training, the adventurer would have already recovered the consumption of the skills he just released. Before your body reaches its limit, your physical strength will recover relatively quickly, unless your body has been seriously injured, or you are very hungry due to lack of energy replenishment. Of course, the way to exercise physical fitness is to continuously consume physical energy, but no one really dares to squeeze out every last bit of physical energy. Most people will feel very tired and unwell when they only have 30% of their physical strength left. Continuing to consume physical strength may even lead to collapse and fainting. Only a few talented people can overcome this situation and squeeze their physical strength to less than 20%. Luzioki is just an ordinary person. His so-called physical exhaustion and squeezing of physical strength are all based on the 30% safety line. You can't destroy yourself just to exercise, right? As for someone who wants to ask, what will happen if you really drain your physical strength and return it to zero? You don't even have the strength to beat your heart or breathe air. What do you think will happen? It's very simple, just invite your relatives and friends to have a dinner with a gift of 200 yuan. So be sure not to indulge in weightlifting exercises too much and end up with a strong corpse. This is a physical exercise. As for spiritual cultivation, I have already talked about it before, that is, meditation, including mental recovery, is completed through meditation. The cultivation of skills is similar, requiring constant use to increase proficiency. One thing worth mentioning is that no matter whether you are an adventurer who prefers combat or special skills, you will not only specialize in one of them. Physical fitness and mental fitness actually complement each other. If there is more than 2 realms difference between each other, then the other one will fall into a bottleneck and find it difficult to make progress. For example, Adventurer A's spirit has reached the late astral stage, but his physical fitness has just entered the early astral stage. So no matter how much a meditates, his spirit will be difficult to increase. On the contrary, because the mind is much stronger than the body, sometimes one feels weak, sleepy, and lacks energy. On the other hand, if Adventurer B's physical ability is 2 levels stronger than his mental ability, then he will lose control of his emotions, become irritable, and lose control of his body. So you can only be good at fighting or special abilities, but your body's comprehensive attributes must be improved across the board. Of course, only the hard targets are met. Due to different emphasis, it does not mean that everyone will be a hexagon warrior. For example, if you major in spirituality, although your physical fitness is okay, your speed may not be very fast. Although your strength is still strong, it cannot last long. Majoring in physical fitness, although your mental strength is up to standard, your quantity is not. Among the same level, others can release 5 special skills, but you can not only release one, but you can also release it much slower than others. In short, efforts and gains are directly proportional. You cannot expect to achieve the same state of mind through taking drugs, subverting ideas, external blessings, etc. as others will through unremitting efforts and exercise. Luzaoki slowly exhaled, the sparkle in his eyes flickering. With the blessing of the Son of Heaven who was freed from the skill form, he has made rapid progress in both meditation and physical training. It's just that the consumption of cultivation resources is a bit too exaggerated. But the effect is also remarkable. When it was still at the 3S level, it was already 150 times more efficient and 50 times faster. Now I don't know how much higher it is. It is no exaggeration to say that Luzaoki's practice in one day is more than what others can practice in several months. The only problem is that his cultivation resources are too few to reach the level of saturation cultivation. What does that mean? That is to say, if a cultivation resource has 1,500 energy points, an ordinary person can only digest and absorb 10 points after practicing for 5 hours. The rest will either be exhausted over time or stored in the body waiting for a second development. It only takes Luzaoki half an hour to practice, and he can perfectly convert a resource, totaling 1,500 points, into his own strength. The problem is that a resource does not actually have as much energy as 1,500 points. Even the best cultivation resource in Luzaoki's hands only has about 100 energy points. Therefore, using a resource for other people's cultivation may cause waste, but Luzaoki's Zaoki used 15 resources and even felt a little dissatisfied with her body. This is why he urgently needs to download a copy to make money. However, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Without enough training resources, every strength comes from the development of oneself, but it makes his foundation more solid and his mastery of his own power more thorough. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 67. Luzaoki finished washing, cleaned up the stinky sweat all over her body, and came out of the training ground refreshed. Looking back at the huge word Weiwen on the plaque at the door, my heart throbbed and I shook my head slightly. This training room is good for everything, not to mention physical exercise. It is even helpful for meditation, and it is the best place to practice skill proficiency. But the fee is too expensive. When you practice in the practice room, you are charged from the moment you enter the practice room. A star-level training room costs 3,000 an hour, but Luzaoki spent more than 10,000 on this day. What family can afford such expenses every day? But there is no way, this is the only way civilians want to practice. Unless you are rich enough to build a dedicated practice room yourself, otherwise if you want to make progress, just pay honestly. If most of the cost of physical training is spent on this, then there is no need to say more about meditation. It's not very picky, but the price of a bottle of spiritual essence is much more expensive than this. The inferior ones cost 30,000 per bottle, the high-end ones cost 80,000 per bottle, and a bottle costs 2 taels. The extravagant ones only last a day. You can save some money and use it 4 or 5 times, but your cultivation progress will fall far behind others. The effect of 1 day for others is as good as 4 or 5 days for you. After 1 month, you will be 2 people in 2 different worlds. Relatively speaking, exercising is easier. For ordinary people, even if you don't have resources to support you, you won't be completely unable to practice. At most, you can just eat more. Of course, it will definitely be much slower than others who use pills and props to assist their cultivation. There is no doubt about this. After all, the energy replenished by cultivation resources far exceeds that of ordinary diet. All in all, whether it's physical exercise or meditation, if you want to make progress, spend money. For Luzaoki, this is even more true. His cultivation efficiency is 150 plus times that of others, which means that his consumption of cultivation resources is far beyond that of ordinary people. Without the assistance of cultivation resources, his cultivation speed is at a cliff. Fell. After this period of training, Luzaoki has exhausted all her training resources. Going to the training ground to train again has little meaning. It is a waste of money and the progress cannot be improved. He decided to wait for a while and wait for the next copy. He didn't eat at home recently. He found an excuse and said that the college entrance examination was coming soon and the school was looking for tutoring, so they had to attend evening classes every day, so that they could go out to the training ground to exercise. But this is not a lie. There are still 50 days before the college entrance examination. The school has indeed made this request, and most students have been left to attend evening classes. The only exceptions are a few people who have passed the adventurer assessment. They are required by the school to spend more time on cultivation because the proportion of their cultural test scores is too low, and more of their scores come from actual competition scores in the college entrance examination. During this period, Xiaoyan has been urging them to practice, but these guys have rubbed Luzaoki's lap. Now they are all star-level experts. The school's training methods can no longer meet their needs, so comprehensively after discussing this with the school, Xiaoyan decided to allow them to leave school after 3 o'clock in the afternoon and find a training ground to practice on their own. Luzaoki looked at the time and was about to leave when she heard a familiar whistle from behind. Beep. Turning his head, Zhao Xueqing's luxury car had slowly driven up to him and rolled down the window. Hey! Get in the car and I'll see you off. Zhao Xueqing seemed to be in a good mood today and actually greeted Luzaoki with a smile. Did the sun rise in the west today? Luzaoki looked at Zhao Xueqing in great surprise. The beauty of our class actually wants to send me, an unknown junior, home. I'm afraid this is a blessing that only a few lifetimes can achieve. The smile on Zhao Xueqing's face froze, and she returned to her cold demeanor. If you like to sit, you will fall down if you don't. As he spoke, he raised the car window. Sit, sit, sit. Luzaoki immediately opened the car door and got in, muttering, if you don't sit, it's for nothing. Why don't you sit for nothing? If you keep doing this, get off here. Zhao Xueqing glared at Luzaoki with a dark face. No. Squad leader Zhao. You should be more cute when you smile. Luzaoki waved her hand indifferently. After getting acquainted with Zhao Xueqing, Luzaoki already knew that her frosty appearance was actually just a disguise. In fact, she was just a little girl, and she couldn't control Luzaoki at all. Not to mention, he also knew about Zhao Xueqing's embarrassing state back then. In the dungeon, Zhao Xueqing was crying with snot and tears because of fear of ghosts, and Luzaoki saw it all. With the handle in hand, Luzaoki didn't panic at all. Squad leader Zhao, you don't want the whole class to know about your embarrassing incident, right? Therefore, the cold and noble Zhao Banhua was tortured to death by a poor and useless brat like him. Of course, it was just a joke, and it was not serious. Lu Zhaoqi was not the kind of person to use people's excuses to threaten others. Zhao Xueqing stared at him without saying anything, looking as angry as a cute hamster. Lu Zhaoqi was so cute by her expression that she couldn't help but feel teasing. He smiled strangely and said, "Little girl, come and make me smile." Zhao Xueqing's eyes widened and she was a little dazed for a moment. This was the first time in her life. How dare someone speak to her like that? As soon as Lu Zhaoqi said the words, she also realized something was wrong. After all, the relationship between the two was not good enough to make such a joke. Just now I just couldn't help myself. So he quickly made amends. "What? You're not smiling? Then let me give you a smile." After saying that, Lu Zhaoqi grinned and giggled a few times. He. Zhao Xueqing suddenly smiled, like spring returning to the earth and flowers blooming. The surroundings seemed to be much brighter. Lu Zhaoqi was stunned, her whole body seemed to be bathed in the spring breeze, and she was in a state of ecstasy. "You talkative," Zhao Xueqing glared at Lu Zhaoqi angrily, but seeing his bewildered expression, she seemed to realize something was wrong, and quickly stopped her smile and turned her face away. The car started slowly. After what had just happened, the atmosphere between the two was slightly ambiguous. But the two of them were not thinking about things between men and women, and the emotion of mutual restraint was rippling in their hearts. In order to ease the embarrassment, Lu Zhaoqi took out the MP3 borrowed from Chen Haoran from her bag and prepared to put on headphones to listen to music without paying attention to Zhao Xueqing's movements. Speaking of this MP3, since Lu Zhaoqi borrowed it last time to take the adventurer assessment, he never returned it to Chen Haoran. Of course, Lu Zhaoqi would never admit that she had forgotten about this incident. It was just that there were too many things to do, no time, and no chance. That's right. Chen Haoran didn't mind this either. He never mentioned it at all. Lu Zhaoqi only remembered this matter when she took it out of her bag a few days ago. Before the headphones were inserted into her ears, Lu Zhaoqi heard Zhao Xueqing say lightly, "I have broken through to the middle stage of Starlight." Lu Zhaoqi's hand shook and her MP3 player almost fell out of the car. He looked up at the girl with a slightly arrogant expression, feeling a little unbelievable. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 68. Breaking through the realm is not an easy thing. Even if you have extraordinary talents, it is very difficult to move up a level in a short time. There is also a large amount of resources to support this. But what's interesting is that once you achieve a breakthrough in one of your physical or mental abilities, it will become easier to improve the other. Of course, this kind of improvement does not necessarily mean that your actual combat power will increase significantly. Under normal circumstances, under the premise of large and sufficient resources, it takes 2 months for Xing Mang to upgrade from the early stage to the midterm. It takes about a year from the midterm to the late stage. It may take several years to break through to the Moonlight realm in the later stage. Even if the talent is astonishing, the cultivation speed is faster than ordinary people. But you won't go from the early stage to the mid stage in 10 days, right? Just pouring in hard resources? Damn big dog owner. Zhao Xueqing took a leisurely look at Lu Zhaoqi's expression while driving, but she didn't know what he was thinking right now. She rolled her eyes at him angrily. After finishing my copy baptism, I have already hit the bottleneck in the midterm. I just spent time consolidating my strength, and then I naturally made a breakthrough. Zhao Xueqing said these words lightly, but no one could understand the hard work behind it. Consolidating and breaking through the strength in just 10 days took a lot of effort. Furthermore, breaking through bottlenecks is not an easy task. Oh, except Lu Zhaoqi. He has infinite enlightenment. With hands in pockets, I have no idea what the bottleneck is. What he lacks now is resources. As long as he has enough resources, he can reach the late stage of starlight in seconds. Oh. Luzioki nodded in understanding and his expression returned to normal. He almost thought that Zhao Xueqing was a cheating player like him. That's right. When Zhao Xueqing was evaluated at school, her overall physical fitness far exceeded Luzioki's, but her focus was on the mental aspect, and she obviously followed the path of a mage. That's why in the assessment drills, when facing the agility player Luzioki, she couldn't gain an advantage. She lost every time with regret and ended up in second place. But even so, her physical fitness is not lower than Luzioki's, but she is not good at close combat compared to Luzioki. After being baptized by the copy, her evaluation was B, and her attributes increased by about 60%. The mental strength, which was already on the verge of the limit of ordinary people, experienced such a wave of increase after the huge boulder pressing on it was removed. It is not surprising that it is approaching the middle stage of starlight. It was Luzioki who made the mistake. However, Zhao Xueqing's improvement still put a lot of pressure on him. After all, his current strength is only in the middle stage of starlight, and he is about to be caught up. If Luzioki never had the training resources, with Zhao Xueqing's ability, it would only be a matter of time before she could catch up with him. Luzioki, who has always wanted to be strong in her life, naturally has a sense of urgency. No wonder Zhao Xueqing is in such a good mood today. He also said he would give me a ride. Turns out you came here to show off to me. The bridesmaids don't look like good people. Luzioki pouted. Just one sentence, Zhao Xueqing frowned. Otherwise. Why should I praise you? Luzioki looked at Zhao Xueqing with a strange look on her face. Xueqing is so awesome. Holy shit, Xueqing is so awesome. Zhao Xueqing's nose was almost crooked with anger. Fortunately, it was natural and had no chemical components, otherwise she would have had to go under the knife. Is this what I want to hear? What I want is praise. Marvel. What's wrong with you, Luzioki? There is not a single word I like to hear. In order to maintain her aloof side, Zhao Xueqing just pursed her lips and kicked the accelerator hard. Buzz, the car engine roared, and Luzioki was pressed on the seat again. Feeling the powerful push on his back, he couldn't help shouting, "Hey, hey, hey. Don't drive a grudge car. Classmate Zhao Xueqing. I want you to be a widow. I want you to take care of it. There are thousands of roads, and safety is the first priority. Driving irregularly makes my loved ones cry. I'm still in the car, hello." Luzioki tightened the armrest. Humph. Coward, Zhao Xueqing raised her head, but the car still slowed down. After all, racing in urban areas at this time is considered a death-seeking act. It's Saturday soon, are you ready? Zhao Xueqing asked. I'm on call at any time, Luzioki replied. Besides, given my conditions, there is nothing to prepare. There's not much else. What stands out is his confidence. After all, Lu, am a reserve man who can clear difficult level dungeons alone. But when Zhao Xueqing heard these words, her taste changed, and she was thoughtful. She knew about Luzioki's family background. Although she didn't know why this guy's actions were always unexpected, there seemed to be a force behind him protecting him. Even with the power of her Zhao family, she couldn't find out the results. But my poor temperament cannot be disguised. That shabby dress, and the look of being blinded by money. Thinking of this, Zhao Xueqing sighed slightly. After all, he was the dungeon that dragged him there, so if something really happened, I would really feel bad about it. Wait for me after school tomorrow. I'll give you something. Zhao Xueqing decided to pick out a few props and supplies from her warehouse and give them to Luzioki. Huh, as soon as these words came out, Luzioki couldn't sit still. Could this be the rhythm of rich woman, hungry, hungry? Doctors have said since childhood that Luzioki has a poor appetite and can only eat soft food. So this goal will be achieved today? Lu Xiaoqi looked sideways at Zhao Xueqing. Don't tell me, it seems like the needle is not pricking. Adventurers are more sensitive to other people's eyes, especially adventurers who major in spirituality. Zhao Xueqing felt a gaze looking at her up and down unabashedly, a blush rose on her face, and she said angrily, "What are you looking at?" "I didn't see anything." Lu Xiaoqi shook her head like a rattle, firmly refusing to admit it. "I'm telling you, don't think too much. I'm just afraid that you might accidentally die outside. I won't be able to explain it to the class teacher when I get back." Zhao Xueqing gave a stern explanation. Lu Xiaoqi pouted, "Still worried about me? I don't know who was so frightened that he burst into tears when he broke into the dungeon. Remember to wait for me tomorrow, do you hear me?" Zhao Xueqing repeated. "Okay, rich woman." "No problem, rich woman. I'll listen to you, rich woman," Lu Xiaoqi assured her, patting her chest. "Don't call me rich woman." Zhao Xueqing obviously didn't like this term very much. "Okay, rich woman. No problem, rich woman. I'll listen to you, rich woman." Lu Xiaoqi acted as a reply reader. Zhao Xueqing. She already knew Lu Xiaoqi's urine nature, so she simply ignored him. The luxury car soon stopped at the entrance of the alley. Lu Xiaoqi opened the door and got out of the car, waving goodbye to Zhao Xueqing. "Goodbye, rich lady." Zhao Xueqing got a roll of her eyes in response. The car started and disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Xiaoqi," a slightly confused voice made Lu Xiaoqi stiffen and turn her head. Lu Wanyi was standing at the entrance of the alley holding a vegetable basket. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 69. When he saw his sister, she stood quietly at the entrance of the alley, looking at him with a faint expression. Lu Xiaoqi felt guilty inexplicably. Sister, why are you here?" "Aunt Song gave me some fruits. I took them back and planned to ask you to try them tonight, but I happened to hear your voice." Lu Wanyi opened the basket, which contained several kiwis and a dragon fruit. Lu Xiaoqi and the others rarely ate this kind of expensive fruit a few times a year. Aunt Song, whom Lu Xiaoqi heard her mention a few times, seemed to be one of Lu Wanyi's bosses. She was full of praise for the patterns Lu Wanyi embroidered and often took care of her in private. "I thought I heard it wrong, so I walked out to take a look and happened to see you." Lu Wanyi was a little confused. Who was that little girl just now? Why are you with her? Lu Xiaoqi stepped forward and took Lu Wanyi's arm, and smoothly lifted the basket in her hand. "She is a classmate of our class. I met her on the way. She just happened to take me back." Lu Xiaoqi explained a little, pulled her sister and left. "It's so late, sister, what are you doing out there? It's not safe, let's go back quickly." "Classmate." Lu Wanyi chewed on what Lu Xiaoqi said. Thinking of the scene I saw at the beginning, there was a ripple in my heart. Looking at Lu Xiaoqi's angular face, she seemed a little enlightened. "Ah, our Xiaoqi has grown up." I didn't know whether to be happy or sad for a moment. "Hey! Sister, what nonsense are you talking about?" Lu Xiaoqi felt guilty and impatient, and quickly explained, "She is just a friend of mine. I happened to see her driving after school today, so I asked her to give me a ride." "Look, isn't this much earlier than usual?" Lu Wanyi smiled, said nothing, and followed Lu Xiaoqi back home. The dishes in the kitchen have been prepared and kept warm in a large iron pot. You can eat them directly when they are brought out. Lu Xiaoqi skillfully arranged the bowls and chopsticks, helped her sister bring out the dishes, and started eating directly. Lu Wanyi looked at her brother who was eating the food in front of her, looking a little dazed. Unknowingly, his brother has grown so big. This day seems to be not as difficult as originally imagined. In a few years, when my younger brother finishes school and graduates, he will marry a wife and have 2 babies. Then I will have no regrets in this life. Lu Wanyi has never considered her own personal issues. Her only focus is on Lu Zioki. The biggest wish is that Lu Zioki can live a peaceful, healthy, and happy life. As for herself and her body, how could she not be clear about it? I just hope that after these few years, when Lu Zioki grows up and someone else takes her place, Lu Zioki will not be left alone and helpless. Although Lu Wanyi kept repeating this concept in her heart, she still felt an inexplicable sadness welling up in her heart. Why doesn't she want to accompany Lu Zioki to grow old all her life? Watching the 2 people's hair gradually turning white, holding hands, sitting in the yard watching the sunset, blowing the evening breeze. Lu Wanyi's eyes couldn't help but turn red when she thought of this. Lu Zioki swallowed 2 mouthfuls of rice and was about to pick up some vegetables when she saw her sister looking sad and lost in thought. Her heart trembled and she put down the bowl and chopsticks. Sister, that one just now was really just my classmate. If you don't want to, at worst, I won't have any contact with her in the future. Lu Zioki held her sister's left hand and almost cursed and swore. Sister's slender hands were as soft as bones and cold, and Lu Zioki's heart felt cold. Lu Wanyi put down her chopsticks with her right hand, wiped her eyes, and quickly waved her hands and said, "That's not what you meant. If a girl comes to you, it means our Zioki is attractive. It's not too late for my sister to be happy." "Really?" Lu Zioki asked cautiously. "Of course it's true. You can be friendly with whoever you like, my sister doesn't care about you." Lu Wanyi was a bit duplicitous, but she still managed to deceive Lu Zioki. Lu Zioki felt that her sister's words were not false and she breathed a sigh of relief, but she felt a little disappointed for no reason. Then he asked with concern, "Then why does sister look so unhappy? Did I do something wrong to make sister angry? I'll change it right away." "I'll serve for," Lu Zioki said, raising 3 fingers to the sky with a serious look. Lu Wanyi was amused by him and looked at him angrily. "It's nothing. My sister just lamented that so many years have passed and Zioki has grown up soon. It's time to leave her. I'm just a little sad." So it turned out to be the case, Lu Zioki suddenly realized, and said with a smile, "No, Lu Zioki will never grow up in front of my sister. I want to be with my sister for the rest of my life." Lu Wanyi's pretty face blushed slightly, and she knocked on his head, "Eat quickly. It will be cold soon." "Sister, eat it too." Lu Zioki put a lot of vegetables into Lu Wanyi's bowl. "You have to hold your sister to death." "Hee, sister, eat more." The Lu family courtyard has returned to its former cheerfulness. Lu Zioki. The next day after school, Zhao Sueking arrived as promised, but Lu Zioki ran very fast, and Zhao Sueking chased him for a long time. "Why are you running away? Didn't I tell you to wait for me?" Zhao Sueking gritted her teeth. She could no longer maintain her former goddess look. "Ah ha ha ha, I almost forgot," Lu Zioki said haha. Mainly because his intuition told him that his sister's moodiness yesterday was related to Zhao Sueking, so he didn't want to get involved with Zhao Sueking today, even in school, where Lu Wanyi was probably invisible. But doing so made him always feel like he was stealing people outside behind the big woman's back. "I have a troubled conscience." Zhao Sueking rolled her eyes at him. What a useless excuse. But Lu Zioki had always been like this, so she didn't bother to pursue it. She directly took out a set of medicine from the parcel column and stuffed it into his hand. "Take it first, don't panic, there's more. Advanced Physical Recovery Potion *99. Recover 8,000 points of physical strength within 60 seconds after use. Advanced Mental Recovery Potion *99. Restore 8,000 points of spirit within 60 seconds after use. Advanced Healing Potion *99. After use, you can recover wounds below the level of serious injury within 60 seconds and replenish 18,000 points of energy and blood. Good guy. This Zhao Xueqing is really arrogant. How much does a set of pills cost? Lu Xiaoqi looked at Zhao Xueqing, who seemed to be glowing with golden light, and couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Rich woman, please support me. I have good looks, a humorous personality, strong body, and good endurance. If you keep talking nonsense, give it back to me. Zhao Xueqing gave Lu Xiaoqi a hateful look and interrupted his wife-in-law selling melons. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 70. In addition, Zhao Xueqing also threw 2 pieces of purple equipment to him. Cloak of the Good Fighter Cloak. Basic defense increased by 351. Movement speed increased by 15%. The speed of energy accumulation while moving is increased by 20%. Wolf Kiss Ring. Basic damage increased by 108. Attack speed and release speed increased by 5%. Recover a certain amount of damage after destroying the enemy. The attributes can only be considered above average, but they are all rare equipment, and they tend to increase the fault tolerance rate. More importantly, they are about as rare as earrings. It's not hard to say that it's rare. It's worth tens of millions of dollars of equipment on the market. Zhao Xueqing knew that Lu Xiaoqi already had a suit of heavy armor, wrapped tightly from head to toe, so naturally she no longer had to think about armor, so she carefully selected it in her warehouse and spent a long time to find this 2 pieces of equipment suitable for Lu Xiaoqi. After the last unexpected experience, Zhao Xueqing saw that Lu Xiaoqi's attack power was at full capacity, while other abilities were relatively ordinary. So she found these 2 pieces of equipment that could increase the third speed, which not only further enhanced Lu Xiaoqi's advantages, but also made up for Lu Xiaoqi's frail body, and could also bring out Lu Xiaoqi's previous flexible fighting style. As long as he can stand up, Zhao Xueqing feels that with Lu Xiaoqi's ability, the difficult dungeon that no one claims to be able to clear can't stop him at all. After all, this is a super BT who has the ability to kill difficult boss in the reserve. It can be said that Zhao Xueqing put a lot of thought into these 2 pieces of equipment. Now, they were dumped into Lu Xiaoqi's hands by her so lightly. Zhao Xueqing didn't even say a single extra explanation. Lu Xiaoqi looked at the earrings hanging on Zhao Xueqing's ears and suddenly felt a little confused. Could this be a dowry? As witty as Zhao Xueqing, based on her understanding of Lu Xiaoqi, she guessed at a glance that this guy was thinking wrongly, so she snorted, "Don't think nonsense. I lent this to you. Remember to return it to me when you're done using it." "You want to take back the things that are in my hands?" Lu Xiaoqi raised her head and snorted, "You are so naive." Zhao Xueqing took out a staff that was taller than a human and punched it on the ground. "Speak carefully." "Okay. Okay. I understand." Lu Xiaoqi immediately nodded and bowed. "If you borrow something, you must repay it. It's not difficult to borrow again. Anyone who knows this understands it." He was afraid that Zhao Xueqing would regret it, so he turned over his hand, put away the equipment, and then patted his chest, as if he felt relieved. Zhao Xueqing looked at his useless look and couldn't help but feel speechless, and rolled her eyes at him. She discovered that ever since she became acquainted with this stinky guy, all the eye rolls she had not rolled in the past 18 years had been made up for in just a few days. The cold and aloof image he had before was gone forever. Lu Xiaoqi, the nemesis of the cold-faced beautiful girl. Time quickly came to the day when they agreed to guide the dungeon. Early in the morning, Lu Xiaoqi took Zhao Xueqing's luxury car to the Adventurers Guild. There was already a burly figure waiting at the door. This man was tall, but his face looked a little childish. He was wearing half armor and carrying a heavy shield in his hand. It looked like he was quite heavy. It was Zhang Heng, the silent boy who had a relationship with Lu Xiaoqi and one of Zhao Xueqing's teammates in the adventurer examination. Zhao Xueqing led Lu Xiaoqi forward and said hello to Zhang Heng. I believe you already know each other, so I won't talk nonsense. Let me briefly introduce the configuration of our team. Lu Xiaoqi, the main melee attacker, Zhang Heng, the shield hand, I, Zhao Xueqing, the mage. Hello, big man. Lu Xiaoqi stretched out her hand and showed a friendly and kind smile. Zhang Heng shook hands with Lu Xiaoqi and nodded to him, with a naive smile on his face, and said nothing. It can be seen that Zhang Heng is obviously the kind of person who is taciturn and inarticulate. This kind of person often gives people a more reliable feeling. Especially when Lu Xiaoqi took a look at his shield, which was almost as tall as a person, she exclaimed, "You shouldn't call this a shield hand, you can just call it Shield Mountain." Zhang Heng fell into deep thought and muttered, Dun Mountain, that's a good name." After Zhao Xueqing saw that the two people had finished their exchange, she continued, "I believe that everyone has read the dungeon strategy in detail. Our goal is simple, to break the historical record of 86 floors. The higher the number of floors, the better. There are 86 floors ahead. The strategies for each floor have been recorded in detail in the information I gave you before. The strategy we need to adopt is to act steadily. Zhang Heng will attract firepower from the front, I will control, and Lu Xiaoqi will do all the damage. Do you understand?" Zhao Xueqing looked at the two of them seriously. Zhang Heng nodded silently to express his understanding. "Yes, my lord." Lu Xiaoqi put her feet together and saluted. Zhao Xueqing rolled her eyes at him, didn't bother to say anything to him, and took the lead towards the Adventure Guild. Led by Zhao Xueqing, after accepting a task to record more information about the Tower of Confusion, the three of them paid a teleportation fee and stepped onto the teleportation gate. The portal is a bit like a huge round stone pier of an altar, with countless mysterious textures engraved on it. A huge crystal is inlaid in the middle of the stone pier, shining with gleaming brilliance. By standing on this stone pier, you can reach any place that has successfully established a connection, provided you have to pay an expensive teleportation fee. As the surrounding textures lit up, the three of them were enveloped in a burst of strange light. Lu Xiaoqi felt keenly that something seemed to have changed around them. When the light ended, everyone had appeared in another place. This is a rather grand square, similar to the venue where adventurers competed during previous assessments. However, the surrounding buildings have a hint of science fiction and a cyberpunk feel. Various transparent pipes are intertwined overhead, and within the pipes is an oval-shaped aircraft that carries people quickly back and forth. What are you looking at? Let's go. Zhao Xueqing pushed Lu Xiaoqi, who was in a daze, and the three of them walked towards a building that looked like a launch capsule. Zhao Xueqing took out a card and pressed it against the hatch, and the hatch immediately opened to both sides. Come in. Three people stood inside the cabin. Lu Xiaoqi watched as the green light on the cabin door turned red, and then a strong sense of weightlessness came. He felt that gravity seemed to have disappeared. Through the window next to him, he could see that the surrounding scenery was changing rapidly. The speed of the cabin changes at a constant speed, so it doesn't feel too abrupt. Lu Xiaoqi knew that she had become one of the people traveling through the pipeline. Soon, the cabin stopped, the red light on the cabin door slowly turned green, and the cabin door opened. They walked out of the oval cabin and came to a long tunnel. At the end of the tunnel is an oval vortex like a black hole. The shape of this vortex is like an egg. No matter which angle you look at it, it is an oval shape, which is very strange. And such a magical vortex that seems to be able to absorb all light is now quietly suspended on a crystal platform waiting for everyone to step in. Are everything I explained before clear? Zhao Xueqing asked in a deep voice. Before Zhang Heng could speak, Lu Xiaoqi leaned against Zhao Xueqing with her shoulder. Let's go. Why are you as verbose as Sister Yan? After saying that, Without waiting for Zhao Xueqing to reply, she took the lead towards the vortex. You. Zhao Xueqing choked and her eyes widened. Seeing Lu Zioqi really rushing in, she could only stamp her feet and follow him quickly. Zhang Hong silently picked up his shield and followed behind. The three of them came to the vortex, filed into the dungeon.